welcome to this candidate forum for the North Marin Water District, sponsored by the League of Women Voters of Marin County. I'm Nancy Bell of the League of Women Voters of Marin County, and I will be your moderator. With me as timekeeper is League member Elaine Biagini. Two candidates here with us today are running for 2 seats for the North Marin Water District. They are Rick Freitas, incumbent, and Tina McMillan. Each candidate has been invited to make a 3-minute opening statement. We will begin with Rick Freitas.
Thank you. I first was elected to the board of directors of the North Marin Water District in 2003. This is the first time I've had a contested race in those years. Male or female have never chosen to challenge us at the board, but this time we are challenged, and I look forward to this challenge because it gives me an opportunity to talk to the voters and let them know what we've done over the last 15 years at the Water District. We've done some very amazing things. We've stayed within budget, and I personally believe we're probably one of the best special districts in California. We've got a very solid crew of workers, staff, and directors of departments are all top drawer. We get the job done, we get it cost effectively, and at rates that are about in the middle of all the rates in the San Francisco Bay Area as far as water districts go. We've done some amazing things, and perhaps during this period of time I'd be able to go over a few of them. I'm very concerned about fire safety, our water quality, conservation, and other projects that we've done that have saved a lot of energy and a lot of water. Our recycle program will save us thousands of gallons of potable water every year. Our advanced metering system will again save us thousands and thousands of gallons of water. Each customer can monitor their own water usage electronically by the day, the week, the month, the year. If there's a leak, it's detected immediately at our headquarters and the customer is notified, and we'll send out a crew to help them find the leak or what the problem is in their home. So we've done a lot of good stuff, and we're going to continue to do good stuff, I'm quite sure. But all of these programs that we've put forward are there to save water, and conservation is our middle name. I come from a background of conservation and the environment. I've been a member of several environmental organizations, boards of directors. I've served on the Nevada Planning Commission twice. I have been involved in my community. I've worked on issues in our community that have been very important and have moved Nevada forward, such as the Hamilton race. The original Hamilton project was a real dog. We took it to the voters, we got it stopped, and what you see now at Hamilton is an entirely beautiful project, different projects that have really advanced that area. I think I've got to stop now, but I want to thank you, and we'll move on. Thanks.
Okay, Tina?
I want to thank the Marin League of Women Voters for giving us this opportunity to speak. This is my first time running for elected office. I agree with Rick. The North Marin Water District is an excellent agency, and probably compared to a lot of the special districts in Marin, its ability to monitor costs and to make choices that preserve access to clean, reliable drinking water has been a tremendous boon for our community. However, there's one area where I feel the district needs to have more improvement, and that's creating a consumer voice on a board of directors. As a candidate running for the North Marin Water Board, I understand what it is to be a consumer and voter. I can look at problems with a fresh perspective because that is the perspective that I know. I've been endorsed by the Sierra Club and the Marin Women's PAC because of my attention to conservation and my decision to try and crash the glass ceiling. The board's primarily been made up of men. There's only one woman that's ever served, and I would be the second if elected. I believe that consumers want to know most specifically right now, what water will cost as use declines and prices increase. Currently, the district is raising fees 4.5% a year. 4.5% may or may not be enough if you look at infrastructure costs and capital improvement projects and pensions. I think it's important to have someone on the board that wants to communicate directly with ratepayers about all of these issues. I think if you look at the board's own strategic planning process, what you'll see is they rate themselves 4 out of 10 on communication. I think it's an area where we need to bring improvement. I believe that consumers and voters are looking at a myriad of new fees and taxes. So when water costs rise, everyone has to dig deeper into their pockets to pay the increases. As a member, I will focus on pensions, operating costs, and capital improvement projects as if I were paying the bill myself. I'll remain familiar with statewide legislation that provides grant opportunities for capital projects and rebates. Currently, 77% of the revenue that the board uses to run the district comes directly from ratepayer fees. But if you look at legislation at the state website, what you can see is there's programs where we could apply for basically grant opportunities to offset some of our costs, which would make it a little easier on ratepayers in the long run. I believe in being accurately informed and proactive when it comes to conservation. That's why I received the endorsement of the Sierra Club. I believe that my political philosophy, which is pragmatic, relates well to consumers like myself who depend on North Marin Water District to provide the best possible service at the most reasonable price. Access to clean, reliable drinking water is not an option. Consumers depend on a continuous supply. And what I aim to do is make sure that supply is affordable. Thank you.
Thank you. Jim Grossi, appointed incumbent and also a candidate, was unable to join us today, so he has sent me an opening statement to read in his stead. Thank you for inviting me to participate in this candidate forum. Unfortunately, I am presently out of state for a higher education conference in Spokane, Washington. Thank you for allowing me to have a statement read to you. I was appointed to fill a vacancy on the North Marin Water District Board last year and would like to ask for your support for election on November 6th. I have lived in Novato my entire life and worked in the Bay Area since graduating from UC Davis with a bachelor's degree in civil engineering. I am a registered civil engineer licensed to practice in the state of California and have been a partner in a Marin engineering firm for the last 20 years. In addition, I have assisted in managing our family ranch located in the district within the watershed of Stafford Lake. As a civil engineer, I have designed and overseen many infrastructure projects for cities, counties, and independent agencies in the Bay Area, along with assisting in developing collaborations between various water and irrigation agencies and city departments. In my profession, we incorporate stormwater infiltration, bioretention and bioswales, and many other design practices aimed at sustainable and energy conservation goals. I am currently involved in various community organizations, including director of the North Marin Water District, appointed and served for the past year, Lincoln Union School District, 10 terms as president of the Board of Trustees, Marin County Zone 1 Flood Control Advisory Board, vice chair, School to Career Committee for Marin County Office of Education, member of several other organizations including Marin County Farm Bureau and Marin Agricultural Land Trust. As a rancher, my family and I have exercised a strong and dedicated stewardship of the land, started and practiced by my grandfather since the early 1900s. Bioretention, erosion control, protection of riparian streams, and sustainable rangeland practices have always been at the forefront of our cattle operations. The challenges and issues we face in northern and west Marin today as they relate to NMWD are provision of clean, high quality, and safe water at reasonable cost, promotion of conservation practices, development of a viable recycling system, emergency and contingency plans for earthquakes, wildfires, and drought, planning for and provision of additional water sources and storage capacities directly controlled by NMWD, support of a capital improvement program to replace aging infrastructure. Having served on the board for over a year, I'm asking for your vote on November 6th. I believe in elected officials representing their constituents, so please contact me if you have any questions or concerns. I look forward to representing you for the next 4 years. Now for the questions. The candidates will each have 1.5 minutes to answer. To be fair, I will rotate the order in which they respond to the questions. And we will begin with Tina.
Thank you.
So Tina, our first question. Do you consider the district to be well managed? Are there management issues that should be considered and improved?
So I would say overall I consider the district to be well managed, but I can also see from a consumer standpoint when I look at the current budget that there's a $4.2 million deficit. When I met with Julie Blue, who's the current financial director, to try to understand how much of the deficit was pensions, how much of the deficit is capital improvement projects, and how we were going to increase the amount of money in our reserves if we're only increasing rates by 4.5% a year, I had some level of concern. I believe North Marin Water District is probably the most frugal special district in Marin, but that doesn't mean that we can keep rates affordable if costs rise at the current rate. I believe what I can bring to that issue is the right questions and the ability to understand how to make a difference, because in some cases, if we're only relying on ratepayers to cover these costs, we're going to get in deeper. But if we can access more grants and loans, we may be able to make a difference and slow down the rate of water increase.
Thank you. Rick?
Well, we've had several programs in the last 15 years that cost several $1 million. We're constantly having some kind of debt that goes along with those expenditures. We have put in the aqueduct. A new aqueduct was needed because the Novato Narrows and was being replaced. We were able to have Caltrans pick up most of the cost of that replacement of the aqueduct. We went from a 30-inch pipe to a 42-inch pipe, all powered by gravity. We were able to eliminate and engineer it perfectly to eliminate pumping costs. So that saves the district a ton of money. And we've had auditor controller for about 15 years there. He recently retired, and Julie Blue is our new auditor controller. But the previous auditor controller and Julie also are very good at finding ways to find money and grants and low-cost interest loans. You're always going to have a little debt when you have a project out there, but the object is to get that project built, bring down the debt, and then move on to the next project. Fortunately, I don't see huge projects in our future, so I believe the money will start building up again and will be able to exist. But it's a very tight run ship. Thank you.
Thank you. And Rick, you're going to start this next question.
Okay.
You mentioned fire safety in your opening statement. What actions would you like to see to address the risks of the district's fire prevention and detection efforts?
Okay. Well, Novato, in conjunction with Novato Fire District and the Marin County Fire District, have developed a program to make sure that our water storage tanks are at full capacity throughout the day and night. If you look to see what happened in Santa Rosa last year during the fires, those fires kicked up in the late evening, early morning hours, when typically water districts would have empty tanks that they've been running all day and would be filling up during the night. So they were caught with their water levels very, very low, and in some cases were not able to obtain water from the tanks. We're making sure that doesn't happen. We've also enlarged tanks throughout the district. We've re-coated tanks throughout the district. We're putting in a new 125,000 gallon tank at Paradise Estates to replace the one that was taken out by the Vision Fire a few years ago. But that's one of the main things I think that we've done that other districts perhaps haven't done, is we'll incur a little bit of the cost to pump at night, but it's to ensure that our citizens and customers are safe during that night if there is a fire. Thank you.
Tina?
When I look at the risk of fire, I also look at the articles that have recently come out in the IJ, and the Nevada Fire Chief has been doing an assessment of all of Nevada and all the surrounding open space in order to better understand how the entire city can cope with the risk of fire danger. I believe the water district is approximately 100 square miles, and I took that from a LAFCO document. And what that means is we've got parts of the district with tanks in them and facilities in them that are going to be vulnerable to fire if we don't clear the brush. We don't use Roundup anymore. We need to use other mechanisms of clearing brush, and we need to be able to assess what the cost is going to be, because what the fire district is saying is they can tell us where the highest danger of fire is, but they can't afford to necessarily pay to eliminate it. I believe what the district can do are two things. We need to look at everything, all the land the district owns that has equipment and fire risk associated with it, and we need to address that need. And then we need to reach out directly to consumers and voters and ratepayers and find out what they need to know to prepare themselves for fire. How much water do they need on hand? If PG&E turns off the pumps, are we going to be able to provide electricity to those tanks? What is the risk to someone during a fire of having access to clean, reliable drinking water, and how can the district communicate it?
Thank you.
Thank you.
And Tina, you'll start this next one.
Okay.
You mentioned customer communications in your opening statement. So does the district have a good relationship with its customers, or any problems that you would address?
So it's a difficult relationship because, remember, folks only call when they're mad. So very few of us, I have a different relationship with the district because when we've had leaks, the gentlemen that have come out to our house to help have been incredible. So I will actually call the district and say, one of the guys you sent out spent a half an hour helping me stop a leak so that I could wait till Monday to get a plumber. But what you normally hear about is what you're doing poorly. And what's going on right now is the district just spent $5.5 million to install an advanced meter information system, but because the public is not adequately informed. And that doesn't mean that the district isn't trying to inform the public, but they're not using 21st century communication to do it. People are assuming that higher bills mean that the system isn't working, that their water isn't being read properly, and that the cost is somehow a mistake. There are many reasons why water costs rise in the summer, and also fees are going up approximately 4.5% a year. So I believe the district needs to shift, and it needs to basically use 21st century communication. We're talking about existing means, but adding Facebook, Nextdoor, and direct outreach to continuously inform consumers and voters about what's going on and how they can understand it. Thank you.
Thank you. Rick?
Well, I think our customer service is good, very good, in fact. We take surveys of our customer service feedback, and it's in the high 90% as far as satisfaction goes. We do that periodically. The advanced metering system has not been completed yet in Novato. It should be completed by December, and at that time, I believe, we will start communicating with our customers, but it doesn't make a whole lot of sense to start putting out a lot of information on metering systems that many people do not have at this time. But we will communicate, and we have communicated. We put out our newsletters 2 or 3 times a year, and when there's important projects, we also communicate with the customers. In the last drought, we did a heck of a job communicating because our customers were able to cut their water usage by 33%. The state mandate was 24%. We did that because we have 18 separate conservation programs for our customers to take advantage of. That's more than any contractor that the Sonoma County Water Agency has. So we were able to communicate quite well that way. And our customers did a great job of conserving. Of course, when they conserve, your revenue drops, but you just have to, that's just part of the game. And I think we're going to be looking at a drought in the future, and I'm quite sure that we can handle it with the way that we did this way, which was very good, very well. Thank you.
Thank you. And so, Rick, you're going to start this next one off. How would you describe the financial condition of the district?
Well, again, you could look at the budget and see that there is some debt there. And that's because of projects that we have been doing. But that debt gets paid down. It's got paid down. I don't know how many projects we've done. I've got a list of about 4 or 5. We always incur a little bit of debt in front, but we pay that down and get the project done. So I think we're in pretty darn good shape. We get audited every year, and we get the highest rating from the audit people every year. We got an award financial reporting achievement this year, and we've gotten it every year, I think, since I've been on the board. So we're very good at balancing the books a bit. Of course, special district's always going to have a little bit of debt there, but we're not going to get crazy with it, and we don't overspend at all. We're very measured in how we spend our money and where that money goes. So if you ever want to go by the district and come to a meeting, you can see where we meet. It's not fancy digs, it's in the employee lunchroom. We cut corners as much as we can. We use our equipment until it's about ready to fall apart. We buy used equipment. We do all kinds of things to try to save money at the district. So I'm fairly satisfied with our financial situation. Of course, it could always be better, but that's the way it is with a special district when you do have aggressive programs to improve your water quality. Thank you.
Thank you. Tina?
I agree that the district is frugal. What I disagree with is that we couldn't do better at informing people and giving them a better understanding. So 36% of the current budget goes to capital improvement projects and debt service, and the debt service is specific to pensions. In 2013, CalPERS changed its pension formulas, which were really helpful because the amount of money that people were able to make after a specific amount of years in service put a great deal of pressure on special districts. So what I found is when I go over financial information with Julie, that while the district is doing as much as it can, ratepayers may not understand that the 4.5% increase that the district is currently using each year with fees may have to go higher, not because they're not being frugal, but because every cost is increasing. So if you're getting 77% of your income from ratepayers, and unlike other districts, because this one is called an enterprise fund, you don't necessarily have taxes that enable you to raise fees in alternative ways. I think we get maybe 0.1% from the tax the county collects on property taxes. You have to be creative. When Rick talks about capital improvement programs, the advanced meter system cost $5.5 million. Now we've got a loan against that to pay most of it, but we don't have it covered by grants. When I go on the state website, I see a lot of opportunities to raise funds in that way. So that would be my bias. I would want to look a little harder and dig a little deeper. Thank you.
Okay. Tina, we're going to start with you this time.
Okay.
Water districts have a very complicated infrastructure.
Yes.
What is the condition of North Marin Water District's system?
Okay. I'm new to this, and this is an area where I believe Rick actually has a great deal more information than I do because he spent 15 years sitting in on board meetings. I have spent several months and I've read everything on the website. But what I see in the infrastructure for the district is the Stafford Lake treatment plant has been improved and updated and is in excellent shape. The pipe that comes down from Sonoma that Rick talked about earlier is brand new. So transmission of water from the Russian River to Novato is incredible. There's been improvements made in West Marin, but I think the area where we're the shakiest on infrastructure there are the 2 wells on the Coast Guard property. Those are not going to work because of salinity issues, and the salinity issues are due to climate change and sea level rise. So the district needs a new well. There's a particular site that it would be best placed at because there's already a pipe there called the Gallagher Ranch. But when you look at all these different factors, overall what I see the district continuously improving tanks. I see them taking any equipment that they find that's problematic and repairing and replacing. I see that they can't predict when pipes are going to blow, like the one on Nave Drive, or when something will malfunction, like the Amarillo tank, where I think we lost almost 1 million gallons of water. It was unexpected, but not good. But when you look at the staff, if you go to one of these board meetings and you hear these fellas and gals talk, they are incredible. North Marin Water District has the most experienced, most wonderful people working for it. If a solution needs to be found, they'll find it. Thank you.
Thank you. Rick?
Well, the infrastructure is in fairly good shape. Of course, we've had aging pipes in our system that have to be replaced, and we're constantly replacing those pipes. One project that we have done was provide recycled water to the people of Novato. We worked with the Las Colinas Valley Sanitary District and Novato Sanitary District to provide that water. We put in the purple pipes throughout Novato. That water serves major turf areas, street medians, fields, golf courses, etc. That is money in the bank as far as I'm concerned, especially if we get into another drought, by using recycled water and using it extensively throughout the system. With Tina, I am concerned about the salinity intrusion in West Marin, and we do and are seeking other areas where we can drill wells and find water in the aquifer. We use the Las Colinas River, Las Colinas Creek aquifer to get most of our water for West Marin. And but when the Giacomini Ranch went out and they redid the wetlands, it was good for the environment, but it also brought in high salinity content further up Lagunitas Creek. So it was a two-edged sword. But I'm pretty sure that we can find other sources. We do have other sources we have identified, and we will continue to look for those sources. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Rick, you're going to start off this next round. We are facing big challenges with climate change. Is the district preparing for a different climate, and what kind of changes would be needed?
Well, 80% of our water comes from Sonoma County through Sonoma Water. It used to be called Sonoma County Water District, but now it's called Sonoma Water. That water and its sources are fairly well protected. The Lake Sonoma holds approximately, I would say, 2.5 to 3 years of a water supply if we got into a heavy-duty drought. We do get our other 20% of our water comes from Stafford Lake, and we have a new filtration plant that's only 15 years or so old. That filtration plant is now powered by solar energy, but those are our two main water sources, and they're fairly guaranteed water sources for the next 2 or 3 years if we get into a drought. That is my main concern. But I think we're in fairly good shape. And looking for other water sources, we've looked all over Novato area in our watershed trying to find other potential places, maybe even put up another dam. That just isn't feasible. Our watershed is not that great compared to, say, Marin Municipal Water District, which has a great watershed. So we're pretty well dependent on Sonoma County water. And let me add that I have a very good relationship with the general manager of Sonoma County Water.
Thank you. Tina?
So I look at climate change in a broader way. California is in the middle of a water crisis that isn't going to end because climate change means more drought, more flood, more fire, and even earthquakes. And so what we have to understand is there's competing interests for water at a statewide level, and there's legislation coming down from the state of California that changes the way water is distributed. So it's a pun, but it's a trickle down, right? So if the state says we want to give more water to agriculture, how is that going to impact consumers How is that going to impact consumers in Novato and West Marin? If the state decides, for example, to allow diversion of water, is it going to destroy the watershed by destroying habitat that supports the clean water that we depend on? When you look at specific issues that involve climate change and how they impact Novato, what it tells me as a consumer is I will pay more for water as my use declines. There's no way to do it differently. What I also understand is that it's worth it. I'm not just a consumer, I'm a native gardener, I'm an old-fashioned environmentalist. I believe I believe conservation is common sense. So I don't mind paying more for something as important as clean drinking water, and I would rather have it come from the aquifer than do what they're doing in Southern California, and they're topping off their aquifers with treated wastewater. I think we can do it differently in Marin. I think we're conscious about climate change, and it's worth it. Thank you.
Thank you. Tina, you're going to start this next one.
Okay.
What do you consider to be the top priority for the district?
It's really hard to pick just one. I believe the top priority of the district is to provide clean drinking water at the most reasonable rate. I think that at some point water's going to get so expensive that people who are living on extremely strained budgets are going to have a hard time paying for it. I think it's important that we look at doing more interface with public agencies that offer people a helping hand when they can't afford their water bills. I think that Rick's right that the 18 conservation programs that the district already provides are critical, but I don't believe everyone knows about Nevada Water District. I actually believe North Marin Water District is the best kept secret in Nevada. So until I started researching all the things that I could do with the district, until I learned about AMI, figured out I had it installed on my meter and I could actually chart my water use by hour per day, I just didn't know how much more I could do in terms of conservation, and I didn't know how much more I could do in terms of understanding what other consumers were dealing with. Thank you.
Thank you. Rick?
Top priorities. Well, I agree with Tina 100%. We need to provide safe, clean drinking water at reasonable prices. And we've done that, and I think we will continue to do that. However, I'd like to point out to our conservation program is second to none. We have so many great programs. One of my favorites is the Cash for Grass program. We will pay people to remove their lawns out of their yard. The lawn is, I just have a hard time with lawns. You're only on it when you're mowing it or putting fertilizer on it or watering it. You very rarely go out on your lawn. So removing it and replacing it with native plants, drought-resistant plants, makes much more sense, or even a garden. We have, since the year 2000, removed over 1 million square feet of turf from Nevada. That is astounding in my opinion, and it's saved us a lot of water. We will continue to do those programs, and we're going to hit them hard. Again, it's a revenue buster, but that's the way it goes, because we want to make sure that our water supply is constant and is always there. And I know we're going to be facing drought in the future, so we have to get into these programs, figure out how to spend our money a little bit more effectively, but always the goal is to save money and to save water. Thank you.
Okay, Rick, you're going to start this next question. Is the population in your district growing? Is this a concern, and how is it being addressed?
Well, I'd say the population is very slowly growing. I don't see, being on the planning commission years ago and understanding how planning works and zoning works, etc. We have an urban growth boundary in Nevada. Incidentally, I worked on that campaign 20 years ago, and this time again around, now we have a 24-year urban growth boundary. So we're not going to be sprawling out. And there's not much more potential, I think, looking at around the town where we would be having excessive growth anywhere that I can see. So it may go up a little bit, but not much. And the history is not much. The water district does get some finances from hookups. Every time a new house is built, you get a certain amount of money to hook that up. There's been years when we've had 1 or 2 hookups a year, and that's really affected our revenue too. So, but what I see is not a great increase in population in Nevada, and that works because we can couple that with conservation and maintain a steady stream of water coming to our customers throughout the year. Thank you.
Okay. Tina?
So I think population growth is a relative question. What Rick says is true. According to the estimates in the budget for each year, phasing over 5 years, they're only estimating 10 new water hookups. But in terms of how development occurs in Novato, I think there needs to be an interagency relationship between the city and planning and the water district. There's an 88-acre site that just sold at Birkenstock. I don't know what kind of use they're going to use for it, but there's been a lot of talk of mixed use in housing because we don't have enough affordable housing as a city or as a county. What that means then is unless we get in there early on and teach people not to install water consuming plants and shrubs and landscape, and like Rick, I hate lawns. They don't make me happy anymore. We don't live on the East Coast. It doesn't work. So we have to be even more proactive. The district has these programs, and as much as the board would like to think that everyone knows they exist, we've got these 5 guys sitting in this building that was built in the 70s, and they're wonderful, and they're cooperative, and they're very reasonable with each other. But there's a whole world out there where people are complaining on Nextdoor and Novato in the Know and Facebook because they don't understand the work the district's doing. We need to bring what the district's already doing to the public. We need to engage them directly. We need to look for grants at the state level so we can offset some of these costs so ratepayers aren't taking on the greater burden of it, and we need to keep doing good by way of conservation. Thank you.
And this is going to be our last question. We've covered a broad range of topics this morning: climate change, water conservation, financial challenges, infrastructure, broad range. So with all that, why, Anne, are you running for office?
Okay. I'm running for office because, well, one, it is literally the best board you will ever find in the county. So in my opinion, serving on a board is a way of getting directly involved and making a positive difference in your community. My kids are grown. I'm still active in my practice. I've had a small business in Nevada for 30 years now, and I've had many interests. My interest in water came about from being a conservationist and a gardener, and also trying to establish a community garden in Nevada. I want to serve on a board, and I want to work with an agency that's well run with experienced people. I want a board where members treat each other with respect. I want to be able to put my time into something where what we're really going to achieve together through collaboration are positive changes. And I believe the thing the board is missing is a consumer voice. These are fellows that have mostly been working with each other on this board or other boards for a long time, and I don't think they have the level of insight that I do in terms of community outreach and public input. What I bring, which is a little different, is I'm a gal. I've spent 30 years managing family finances. I'm the conservation expert, and I deal with the irrigation system when it doesn't work, which is much of the time. That's why I hand watered this year, and I got my use down to 325 gallons per day in some of the highest water use irrigation months of the summer. I believe that the board needs a fresh voice and a fresh perspective, and I think I can handle that. Thank you.
Rick.
Well, I'm running for re-election to continue the fine work that the board and the staff and the crew have done. We've innovated and made great advances in the district over the last few years. The metering system, electronic metering system, is a huge advance. Our aqueduct from Petaluma to Novato is a great advance. Our recycled water is another great advance. Our fire safety and taking care of our customers' safety is a huge advance. I want to continue to do those things, but these programs were innovative, discussed, worked out, and then put into place through a cooperative effort between the board and the staff. I'd like to continue that relationship. It's a great staff. The board members are very fine individuals. We have great customers. I just like to be part of that system. I've been part of other groups and committees and so forth, but I find that the North Marin Water District is an outstanding place to work and an outstanding place to be able to be on the board of directors and help direct that water district. which I think is one of the finest in California. Thank you.
Thank you. That concludes our questions. Before the candidates make their closing statements, here's some useful information about the election. Election Day is Tuesday, November 6th. If you wish to register to vote, or if you've moved since the last time you voted and need to re-register, you may register anytime online, or you may mail in your change as long as it is postmarked by October 22nd, 2018. Vote by mail requests must be received no later than October 30th. If you go to the League's Voters Edge website at votersedge.org/CA, that's votersedge.org/CA, enter your street address and zip code, you will be able to see your own ballot with links to the candidates, issues, ballot measures, and information about the voting process itself. And now the candidates will offer a closing 2-minute statement. We will start with Tina.
So in closing, the first thing I'd like to remind folks is there are actually 2 seats available on the Water District Board, and you have an opportunity today to look at the incredible work and the understanding of the board from the perspective of a 15-year board member and from the perspective of a consumer and a community member that has deep roots in Novato and that very much wants to provide a form of public service that would make a real difference for the people in the community. I recognize that this is a difficult decision for voters to make because water isn't just a vulnerable resource, it's an essential resource. And the responsibility of a board member includes not just an understanding of engineering and operations, it's an understanding of finances, it's an understanding of conservation, and it's an understanding of the water crisis in California. I believe I am the best person to provide that understanding directly to people. I believe my investment in research and fact-based opinions about things is one of the biggest gifts that I can bring to this board. I believe I have the ability to collaborate, to treat staff with respect, to function as a board member, putting public service as probably the greatest priority that I can imagine. I want consumers and voters to know that I represent their interests on the water board and that I represent the need to protect the watershed as a critical piece of maintaining our access to clean, reliable drinking water. The last part of that piece is making it affordable and understanding the impact of people who are struggling. I believe I have that ability too. I hope I'll get your vote. Thank you.
Rick?
Well, I've been involved with the community of Novato for 40 years, and I've served on many boards and commissions. Let's name a few: Sierra Club Executive Committee, the Marin Conservation League Board of Directors, the Marin Audubon Society Conservation Committee. I've served 10 years on the County Parks and Open Space Commission. I'm a board member of the Olampali People, visit Olampali. Board of Directors and Zone 1 Flood Control Board, I've served there. I have some great endorsements. I have Judy Arnold, Dennis Fredoni, supervisors. I have all 5 Novato City Council members. I think that's a pretty good deal. They sometimes have difficulty agreeing on one thing or another, but they certainly agreed on Rick Freitas. Speaking of Rick Freitas, please visit my website, rickfreitasforwaterboard.com. I've got all of the programs we've done, all of the things I've done in the community, and things I will want to continue to do. I hope you could visit my website. As far as the future, I believe we have a great future in Novato and a great water board, great people. I want to continue to serve the community. I've served the community for many years, and I want to continue that. And if I'm fortunate enough, I would ask for your vote for this election. And thank you very much.
Thank you. And that concludes our forum. Thank you to the candidates for participating, to our timekeeper, Elaine Biagini, and to you for watching and voting.